I feel like I say this virtually every time, but Father Knows Last is a brilliant episode of Cheers, and there are several key elements in this episode that I think really help to shape the future of Cheers. This is the 15th episode of the first season, directed by the fabulous James Burrows. And there's really only one key narrative here, which is a little unusual, as a lot of episodes have the main narrative and then maybe a subplot, but it still works quite well. And in this episode, it is revealed that Carla is pregnant. And if you've seen future seasons of Cheers, you'll know why that's quite significant. But for this point, it's quite an interesting change and a quite sudden as well. And she's actually trying to convince everybody that the father is this professor. And she has valid reasons for doing this, but whether or not she'll get away with it, I'm not going to say. But it was definitely an interesting episode from the perspective of Diane and Carla. Diane actually physically hurts Carla at one point, which I thought was quite interesting because Diane's definitely a non-violent person, and she also wants to be good friends with Carla, but it shows just how strongly she believes Carla's actions are immoral, and I think that when Diane is pushed, and when somebody really does something she doesn't agree with, she will go that step further, and I thought it was a really great bit of character development for her. And I think the way that the whole narrative unfolded was brilliant, it developed really well, and there's one moment which I guess I'll say with a spoiler warning that I thought was just so beautiful. But I'll talk about that in a moment. We also get what I think is the first prominent Cliff moment. Whenever we've had Cliff before, he's usually been on main focus for like 10 seconds, or he's been at the bar surrounded by people. But in this one, he actually walks into the pool room and has an exchange with Diane and Carla that lasts a good couple of minutes. And it's really the first time where Cliff is a character in his own right rather than a supporting character. And of course, Cliff goes on to be one of the main characters and has his own prominent storylines, just to, whet your appetite if you haven't seen that far ahead. But at this point, not so much. So I think that's a really great turning point for Cliff. And I guess, actually, I'll say one more thing that's not a spoiler, and then I'll discuss something that is a spoiler. Diane's rendition or telling of the Telltale Heart I thought was wonderful. It was a brilliant addition. What happened with that was funny, but it was moving. It's a brilliant story. If you're not aware of the Telltale Heart, well, I won't tell you what it is, because I want you to watch this episode and maybe discover it for the first time from Diane. That's quite an interesting how did you learn about the Telltale Heart story. I'm not actually sure how I learned about the Telltale Heart. I can't remember. But I thought her version was beautiful. So, spoiler from now, I'm going to discuss really the final scene and why I thought it was brilliant. So, spoilers from now. In the final scene, Diane, of all people, the perfect person to have this thought, has decided that they're going to have a whip around the bar and raise some money for Carla and this child, and raise it as a Cheers baby, which is such a, well, it's a lovely thought. Raising a baby with a bar is an interesting concept, but it was such a moving thing to do. And when Diane launched into one of my favourite songs, You'll Never Walk Alone, I love it so much, my first novel is actually named after it. I thought, well, the first time I saw this, I thought, oh, she's going to sing a couple of lines and she'll get shot down and we'll move on. No, everybody starts singing it. And to have the cast of Cheers singing this beautiful song, one of my all-time favourite songs, is just such an incredible experience. One of my, is it my favourite sitcom? That is a good question. It might actually be, but certainly one of my all-time favourite shows. Characters I adore singing a song I love in such a moving moment, and Shelley Long's voice absolutely stunning as well. So it was just gorgeous and such a beautiful, powerful way to end this episode. It's absolutely perfect. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and from start to finish, this episode was fabulous. Even though it's just one main story, it sustained itself very well. And it's told, is it told? I don't think it's told completely in real time, but there's not a lot of time shifting. It doesn't cut back and forth too much, well, forward too much, which is always another sign of a good, well-written episode, when things can be set within a very short space of time. It must be short. I'm questioning myself now, but Carla wears the same clothes throughout. I think they all do. So there's not really much hopping back and forth. And it did it fantastically well without ever getting boring, without ever dragging. Needless to say, yes, yet again, I've said this is another great episode of Cheers, but there are some very valid reasons for why I think that's the case. Father Knows Last is pretty wonderful.